Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, since some of you already have started your anniversary calendar, at the end of whom you can choose any of the 6 last year's Banquet Box champions, which are called Glorious Guardians. I did want to make a video kind of ranking these champions and explaining about them a bit more in case, you haven't been following the game as closely necessarily, or just don't have an idea which one would be better for you. And what we need to know first and foremost is that 5 of the 6 champions are very, very good. The 6th champion was kind of dead on arrival, even though right now he might kind of get a chance to make a bit of a comeback with the Colosseum game mode coming out. Could be kind of good for it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all 6 Glorious Guardians champions, kind of rank them in an order which I think are the best and most useful and the least. And then we're going to discuss the necessity for 6 stones, awakenings, and so on and so forth. So first things first, Sentry. Sentry has sucked. The best way to put it is, I don't have a 7-star Sentry. On purpose. Like, I could have gotten him last year, but I just didn't think he's worth pursuing necessarily. I do have a 6-star Sentry, and I used him like once in Epoch of Pain, where I only needed his ability to be immune to nullifies and apply debuffs. But other than that, at no point throughout the last year have I ever said to me, wish I had Sentry 7-star. Really couldn't have cared less. I think that kind of says a lot. Sentry is the type of champion that has no place in the game. He is a ramp-up champion that's bad, in short content. He's good in a long content, but we don't get any long content. We all expected like abreast type content as well at like this year, but we didn't get it. But even if we would get it, even let's say Necropolis 2.0 comes out next month, I don't think there's any good reason, purpose, or need for him, because there are plenty of champions in the game who are good for short and long form content, and I would not feel compelled to invest in this champion any way, shape, or form. Now, what I mentioned at the beginning is Colosseum might be a good place for him. I personally do not know whether I will ever rank up any champion for Colosseum specifically, but that could be a place where he kind of shines a bit. Because Colosseum is long form fights. If he happens to fit some tags or counter some champions very well, that he could do. I actually think 7-star Sentry could be quite decent for this Iron Warlock fight. But does that kind of like make me want to rank him? Not really, no. So I do think that by a wide margin, by a very wide margin, Sentry is the garbage of the dump. Ironically, he's the one that I might pick because I don't have him, but he's definitely the worst one. Right. Spot number 5. And this is kind of tricky. I'm going to give it to Purgatory, because Purgatory already is an awesome, awesome champion. Purgatory is, to me, the type of champion that, for most part, for most players, sits until she's needed. As in, like, Kabam basically had some specific saga incursions, and Purgatory was very good for that. She was very good for a while in the raids with her like level 3, and she was like dominating the raids, so once a month people used her there. But again, with her mechanics, you could use her there like rank 2 unawakened and still get, max results quite easily. And it's similarly across the game. I like the champion. I think she's good. Do I think she's like Battlegrounds Mystic Attacker, Mystic Champion good? Not in almost any meta, because again, she's a bit ramp-uppy. But all things together, I think Purgatory is a good champion to have access to. I would say that she kind of has played somewhat smaller role in the competitive aspect. And that is one of the disclaimers I should have added at the beginning of this, because I look at things kind of more competitively. It's not necessarily which champion is going to be best for like Act 9 parts or something like that. I typically give champions more value when they are the champions that we use in the most competitive game modes by the most competitive players, and take to the max ranks and so on and so forth. And I do think Purgatory is a bit of a step back from the other four when it comes to the competitive areas of the game. I do think she's equally as good, if not better, for more situational places in Marvel Construct Champions. I like this champion a lot, and I cannot emphasize it here, where all of these champions above this point actually have turned out to be W's, aside from Sentry. All of them are awesome and great, and have uses, as does Purgatory. But if you just had to pick one of the 6, she's not the one that I'd pick. Unless you basically have no good mystics. But then, let's move on to the next one. It's going to be Medusa. And this one kind of hurts, because Medusa was the champion that I chose to awaken and give like 6 stones to, and took her to rank 3. And I don't really regret it, because there were times where she was good. And she is a very good champion. And occasionally she does things well. And when the Glorious Guardians program kind of, well, the last banquet kind of came around, it was also around the time, Scream has recently entered the game. And 2 of these champions kind of like drew fairly strong parallels. Scream or Medusa, which one do you rank, which one do you chase? And I didn't have Scream, and I felt like, hey, I can get Medusa, and she's going to do much of, what Scream does, plenty of those matchups as well. She's kind of more comfortable for me to use. And the truth is, I didn't use her all that much. Really didn't. And I loved her the times when I did use, when I needed access to armor breaks or some other piece of content. She's very fun as a questing champion. But as it turns out, the most jacked champs of the Cosmic class kind of do what she does, but also kind of better. Because when it comes to competitive battlegrounds, again, there are a bunch of tech champions that have now been armor break safeguarded, basically. And that obviously makes her a bit less than ideal, and her defensive value isn't necessarily as high as it once was. And from a competitive point of view, like, you don't really need to invest in her if you do have like Harold Nadine, Thanos, champions like that. Even like Carl, because Carl basically does what Medusa does, just faster and a bit more. And there you go. I like Medusa. I like her a lot. And at the same time, after I had picked my Medusa, I didn't regret it. But if I had a redo, I would have changed my decision. I would have picked a different champion that I would awaken and give signature stones to, and that I would kind of like invest in more. But it's still very good to have access to Medusa. And this is going to be a very important condition. I would place her a tier higher if you're not willing to kind of like commit to this champion. If you're talking about unawakened champions, or if you're talking about a low sig version of this champion, I would put Medusa as the 3rd spot. If you're talking about champions max potential, and if you then I would actually now put Black Panther Civil War higher. Black Panther Civil War is actually kind of regaining a bit of popularity and momentum, and there's very good reason for it. And very large part of that reason is just because he happens to counter many of the more annoying meta defenders right now. Like, he can do Yelena, for instance, which is great. Despite what you might think or feel, he is actually a perfectly serviceable and reasonable Captain Britain counter, especially under specific conditions. But in general, because you barely have to hit the opponent, you just need to like parry a lot and then drop your level 2. And then there's going to be big bursts of damage that will bypass the safeguard. And it turns out he can do kind of like many matchups you wouldn't immediately necessarily think of. But here is the biggest warning about Black Panther Civil War. You do need to kind of go all in on him. Like, if you're going to pick him, then there's no point in picking him unless you can and want to get him awakened, unless you can and want to sig him up, unless you want to take him to the max possible rank, because that is how he plays. Under any and all other circumstances, I value Medusa more than he does. When we're talking about rank 4 Sig 200 champions, Black Panther Civil War is way scarier to me, and I think the better champion. When we're looking at rank 3 Sig 50 champions, I think Medusa is better. I hope that kind of clarifies that. Whoops. And spot number 2, I'm going to give it to Deadpool X-force. Deadpool X-force is, I would argue, the best offensive-only mutant nuke in the game. Because he obviously has basically no defensive utility, and he's like one of the very, very few offensive-only champions that kind of manages to be good enough to find himself a roster spot in Battlegrounds. People do use him in Alliance Wars, and it's all thanks to his Split buff that allows him to take even like bleed immune matchups. That is huge benefit to him. He's also one of the champions in the game that responds absolutely positively, the best with any type of attack modification. For instance, give him power shield, those bleeds will benefit from the power shield, like anything's gonna die in like level 1. Or give him some sort of fury, and as well, you can basically nuke champions with just, with a level 1. And that's where he stands. He's also perfectly viable for plenty of matchups unawakened. The main reason for his awakening would be primarily Nick Fury matchup, and now the Punishers. No, I don't actually. Nope, wouldn't help against Punisher, but Nick Fury, this works around. So that's the main reason to have him awaken. So he's also one of those champions that's perfectly viable, unawakened, to be ranked up, and you'll get majority of the benefit. And he's very good. If your mutant class needs help, or if you need, like, again, champion for occasions like that, I think he's a very, very solid pick. But here we go. I think overall the best champion over the course of last year has been Sentinel. Because he is, number 1, he's a dual threat type champion. He's capable offensively, absolutely amazingly busted under specific conditions, like Invade, for instance, or Power Shield as well. He does amazing there. He has defensive value as well. I have lost plenty of rounds against Sentinel as well. Obviously, he has counters like any other champion in the game, but I do think Sentinel has, like, overall the best package. As an attacker, as a defender, you do want to get him awakened. It's not necessarily mandatory to get him max sig, get him to like 660, 680, so he'll be fine there. So I think that's viable argument as well, because unlike Black Panther, he doesn't need to be the max sig or as high sig as possible. And yeah, he's proving himself across many different game modes, in Alliance Wars, in Battlegrounds, in questing conditions. He is a better version of himself. He's objectively, I think, better than the Nimrod, which is meant to be the Sentinel's big daddy boss. I think Sentinel is the best pick if you don't have any of these champions. And that's also kind of like the champion that I wished I invested that Awakening Gem in order to feel more comfortable and confident ranking him up earlier. Eventually, I actually used the generic Awakening Gem with Sentinel. So there's that. There you go. This is how I look at them. I do think Medusa, again, is situationally splitting number 3 and number 4 spot, entirely depending on whether you're taking champion to max sig or not. I think Medusa is also quite respectable unawakened. I don't think that sig ability is very nice for competitive things, but even without awakening, I do think there is quite a bit of value in Medusa. Sig ability does give her the true accuracy, which makes her a viable await counter, which makes her a good Spider-Woman counter. And it also gives her the auto block, which gives her more defensive utility. But you get majority of the offensive utility unawakened, so she's also like a solid pick unawakened, just like Deadpool X-force is. If you're gonna invest heavily in the champion, I think Black Panther Civil War is like the 3rd best call. And unfortunately, Purgatory, I think, is half a step behind, not far below that. And Sentry is like the ugly duckling of the entire thing. Anyways, that's it. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next